Hello everybody, this is Joy from Shout for Joy Quilter, and this is the scrap busting mystery for fall 2023. This is clue 3 of the Doodad mystery. So hopefully you've got your pieces all for clue 3 cut and set aside. I have a couple more of my crumb pieces to do yet. I've been checking them off as I trim them down. I have 3 left to do for the clue, but it's okay. I can show you what I need to show you without having those 3 pieces. So when we start, we're going to make more pinwheels like we did last month. So I'm not going to re-film that section. If you need to see it, you can go back and watch clue 2, and you'll make more pinwheel units. And you'll see in the clue how many you need to make, and you'll just keep making more. Let's see, is this moving? Somehow, there we go. Think. There we go. Sorry about that. It was not moving very fast. Okay, we're going to take those pinwheel units, and we're going to take those quarter square units that we cut from our mediums, and we will be sewing them to the sides to set our pinwheels on point. I'm going to take opposite ones, and I'm going to find the center of that long edge. And you can tell it's the long edge because the edges are the 45-degree angles, not the 90-degree angle. And I just find the center by folding it in half. Blah, 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 blah. That was not easy for me to say today, I guess. So I'm going to pin my halfway marks. And then I'm going to match them with the seam on my pinwheel. Yeah, my dog wants my attention, and she's decided that acting like she's going to throw up is the way to do it right now. Okay, so I match the centers, and then I also put a pin in on the outside. With all those extra seams, I really need to keep everything in place. I make sure there's some bits hanging off the edge. It's what you need. And again, I match the center, and then I'm gonna pin the outsides. My machine foot is gonna want to push everything out of the way. It's so much easier to pin it and make sure that everything behaves. Okay, so I'm going to take it to the machine, and I have my walking foot on my machine instead of my 1/4-inch foot. And can't find my purple thing right there. I have a really good mark for my 1/4-inch on my walking foot. Why is my walking foot on? Because I did a lot of binding yesterday. So I'm going to line that up with my 1/4-inch. I really want a scant. I didn't go as scant as I wanted. I'll do that on more of them as I go, but I'm following carefully that 1/4-inch. Again, with these crumb-pieced units, it really helps to use your scant quarter. That means a little less than a real quarter. You want to have enough to hold the quilt together, but you also want a scant enough that those extra seams in your crumb-pieced units don't eat up all of your seam allowance. And again, just carefully do my 1/4-inch. And take my pins out before I sew over them. Really, really important to do that. I'm going to just stop a moment there and I'm going to show you. I don't know if you can see this pin. I took the head off the pin. But can you see this pin? That's a pin I did not take out of my piece before I got to it, and look what happened. The needle pushed that pin right down inside the guts of my machine. Not a good thing. It can possibly throw your timing off. Not good at all. Also breaks the needle, and if it doesn't break the needle, it dulls your needle. So just pull your pins if you can. There are times when I don't pull my pins, but this is definitely a time you want to pull your pins. So, okay, get back to, okay, I'm going to be opening my seams up when I press them rather than pressing them to one side. I've got all those seams going on in there, random seams because of the crumb piecing. And I'm going to take it to my iron. First I press the way I sewed it to kind of push those threads into the fabric. And then I'm going to get one of my mini ham things. This one, I don't know what it's called. It's the one I usually leave at home because it's big and bulky. And the other one is my strip stick. Now we use both of them in this video. So I open that seam. Good thing is to use your purple thing. I can't find my ironing board purple thing. I must have walked off with it. So I press it open from the back, and then I go to the front and press again, making sure I have no tucks, making sure it's as flat as can be. I end up over pressing it, but that makes it lay flat with all those bulky seams coming together on that seam that I'm pressing open. And again, press from the back, kind of rock my iron gently. I don't want to stretch it. I just want to over press. I want to press it beyond flat. So that's why I'm doing that. Any other time I am picking up my iron before I move it. And I'm just pressing it again. And there's two sides. You have to do opposite sides. Press them before you can do the last two sides. Now I like to trim my dog ears off, and I just line that up with the edge, my ruler up with the edge of my pinwheel, and cut off the dog ears. There is enough bulk going on in the seams when you're doing that crumb pieced units thing that you do not need to have your dog ears in there too. Some of those dog ears have seams on them. They're, that little bit makes a difference. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to find my center. I'm going to pin. I'm definitely going to pin where the points of my triangles come out to the edge. Because talk about bulky spots. I've got some seams really happening in those areas. So put them out, match them up. I'm not worried about this one. I'm going to pin it straight, but when I pin these out on the outside, I'm going to put my pins in at an angle. That means I can get closer to the pin before I have to take it out. I start putting it in at the wrong angle. I want it to angle away from my presser foot. Again, that way I can get as close to the pin as I can before I have to pull it out. And so it's holding all those seams coming together without having to take it out before I get to some of them. So again, take it to the to the sewing machine. I found my purple thing for my machine. Again, I'm following that 1/4 inch. Purple thing just helps me hold those seams, because those seams are going in every direction because of that crumb piecing. And I can get it really close in there. I can't get my fingers that close. And if I were to sew my purple thing, it's softer than a pin, and it doesn't bleed like my fingers might. So, yep, see, just tuck those seams down in there before you sew over them. Makes for happiness in getting those. Enough seams got flipped in my crumb piecing. I don't need to flip them there. So there you go. There's one side, and then I'm just going to sew the other side, and I'm going to kind of speed that up a little bit. You don't need to watch every little bit there. Okay. You know what it looks like to sew that seam. And again, I'm going to take it, I'm going to press those seams open. Yeah, I'm just checking. Some of these I have lots of seams. Here I'm using my strip stick, which is much flatter. Doesn't stick up as high as the other one that I was using. Yeah, I have some pretty bad globs of thread on the back, but hey, it's going to be inside my quilt. Nobody is going to know once the quilt is finished and quilted. It's not going to show through. If it was that black on my light, it might show up, that black thread, but it isn't going to show up through my medium. Goes with my mantra. What is inside my seam, what's inside my quilt stays inside my quilt, just like Vegas. So again, just press those seams open from the back and then set it again from the front, and you will have your pinwheel set on point. What a happy thing. Again, just rock it gently, because there are lots and lots of bias things going on in those crumb piece blocks. When I cut them and then sew them together, they end up in all kinds of different ways. So I've got bias where just everywhere. So I'm going to take this. In a perfect world, it'll be perfectly square and it'll be the right size. I'm not even putting the size in the pattern of what it should be. It's going to be fine. We'll just make sure if it's a little scant that we will bump it up, or not bump it up, but we'll play with it when we sew our seams together, our units together. So I'm just going to trim off those dog ears again. And there you go. Now in a perfect world, going back to that perfect world, we will have exactly 1/4 inch beyond the point of the pinwheel, and all of those pinwheel seams will end up perfectly in the corners. Am I going to worry if I'm off a little bit? No. Okay, here's the next thing we're going to do. I'm going to take my large, these were set aside in Clue 1, I think. Take my large light and then that smaller dark. I'm going to cut my dark in half diagonally. they were set aside in Clue 2. Sorry about that. I'm just going to mark my 1/4 inch line on either side. This is going to help me visualize things in the next step. I'm going to cut it in half on that center line. And then I am going to use one of these and one of my large squares there. And I'm just going to pick which corner do I want to use. I'm going to line up, now it's hard to see, but I'm going to line my seam line that I drew up with the outside edges. Now, the thing is, I can get squeehawed with this one. I know, that's such a technical term. So I'm going to use a corner clipper. And there are lots of different brands of corner clippers. This one happens to be Creative Grids. I know that GE Designs has one. I also have one by Antler Quilt Design. There's just, let's see, what's another one? I have a Marty Michelle one. So I just clip my corners. This way, they are clipped at the right spot. Now I can easily line those edges up with the edges of my block, and I know it's going to be square on my block. See? And I'm going to just tuck a couple pins in so it doesn't move, because this one I'm bound to move. And I'm just going to stitch on my drawn line. So you can see that a little bit better from here. And I still have that bright red thread in my machine, yay. So you can almost see that better than you can that line I made with my chalk pencil. I'm going kind of slow. I want to make sure I'm hitting my line. And again, especially if you're doing all crumb pieces, hit the line on the inside rather than hit the line itself. Just cheat a little to the inside to give yourself a little more scant. It gives you more room to turn your seam, to press your seam. And then I'm just going to trim away that light triangle because I don't need it. And guess what? I have some more light crumb pieces I want to use, make. In fact, I'm going to use that as my starter piece. So I'm just going to press that to my dark. Again, if you're doing crumb pieces for your dark as well as your light, I would press this seam open. So you're going to make as many as you need to, let's see, listed in your pattern. So that's what you'll have. You'll have a bunch of these, the pinwheels set on point with your medium, and then you'll make a bunch of these units with just one corner gets snowballed. One, no more. We're not making a snowball block. We're just snowballing one corner. And it tells you how many you need in your pattern. So for clue 4, you're going to pre-cut some dark and some background. Oh, I put background in the pattern. Sorry, it should say light and not background. I forgot to catch that one. I'm not gonna worry about that one. Hopefully you'll understand that light is background. And it tells you how many. I am going to do some of them crumb and some of them not crumb. There are 56 you need to cut. I'm not doing 56 crumb blocks or crumb pieces. I'm going to do 16 of them as crumb, and I will do the rest of them. The 40 will not be crumb. It will just save me a lot of time. Those of you who are making the crumb units, you're finding it does take time. It's using up, I mean, I've got some little pieces that are set aside for those last crumb pieces that I still need to make for my medium. But it takes a while. If I'm using big chunks, if I'm using a big chunk, it takes less time to do a bunch of big chunks. But I start with these little ones, and I build, and then I start adding the big chunks. So I'm not going to make 56 light squares for clue 4. I'm going to do 16 crumb and 40 not crumb, because I'm not going to spend that time. I have to go to work. I have doctor appointments. I've got, and I'd like to spend some time with my husband. For some reason, he likes to, spend time with me. I like to spend time with him too. So enjoy clue 3. I will see you next week with clue 4. We're getting close to revealing some things. So see you next week. This is Joy from Shout for Joy Quilter in our scrap busting mystery of 2023, Doodad.